Welcome to Advocating for Dads with Jana Jones.
Welcome back to Advocating for Dads with Jana K. Jones. Jana is a dedicated North Carolina family law attorney with over 15 years of experience helping fathers protect their rights and strengthen their relationship with their kids. My name is Kevin Rosenquist. Today we're talking about what you can do if you think your child support payments aren't actually going toward your child's needs. Jana, welcome back.
Hey, Kevin. Good to see you again.
So, interesting topic. Talking about what if your ex is misusing your child support? Is this something that comes up often?
It's something that I hear all the time, especially from my fathers. And it can be a very frustrating situation for them because you would hope and you would expect that the money that you're paying is going towards the needs of the children.
Sure.
The reality is whoever is receiving the child support is able to use those funds in any way they see fit. It may or may not be on the child.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just the law of the land. The person receiving the child support does not have to give an accounting for what they're using that child support for.
What is the money legally supposed to cover, though?
It's supposed to cover the needs of the children. So educational needs, healthcare needs, financial needs related to schooling or, clothes, shoes, lunches for school, anything related to the children, extracurriculars. It could be a number of things. That's what it's supposed to be used for. But in North Carolina, we use an income shares model. So the idea is that the child should benefit from the income of both parents. And then depending on what the custody arrangement is, determines how much each parent is responsible for. And then the parent who has the child less or makes more money is the one that ends up paying the child support to the other parent so that the child can live a lifestyle that is supposed to be modeled behind what it would be like if they were living in the home with both parents together.
Okay, that makes sense. Why do you think there are so many frustrated dads about how child support is used? Are there expectations that they have that are unrealistic?
I mean, I don't know that I would call them unrealistic. It's just not legally required. I think their expectations are reasonable that, again, that the money is going to be spent towards, the needs of the child or the children. And when they see the custodial parent, the one receiving the child support, seemingly using that money for other things, that can feel really frustrating because this is typically money that is required and is maybe difficult to pay within their budget. And so it feels like I am paying to support a lifestyle of someone I had a child with as opposed to the actual needs of my child. Mm-hmm. That is often the sentiment that I get from parties who are ordered to pay child support. But the reality is, as I've said, the court does not ask for any kind of itemized list from the custodial parent, the one who is receiving the child support, as to what they are paying with that child support. It's simply money that is due to them that they are entitled to and that they get to receive.
What are some examples of spending that a father might consider questionable, but the court actually would allow?
Any spending. Again, in a classic example where dad's paying and mom's receiving, mom does not have to give an accounting for what she is using those funds for. Mm-hmm. Again, the idea is it's an income shares model. So the child should benefit from the income of both parents, and that takes into consideration the amount of time that they spend with each parent. So what the custodial parent or mom chooses to spend that money on is her prerogative, and she does not owe any accounting or information to dad about how she utilizes those funds.
What about the kinds of spending that would be seen by a court as misuse of child support? What are there things that if it were proven that they were spending on that would be considered misuse?
Unfortunately, no.
Really?
And the idea is, dad in this situation is cutting a check to mom, right? Mom puts that money in her bank account and she pays bills, period. Whatever those bills may be. Some of those bills are going to be related to the child or children. Some of them are going to be related to getting her hair and nails done.
Right.
And there's no way to know or to kind of section out that money and say that has to be carved out specifically for the children. So unfortunately, as many ways as you can ask it, the same answer will apply. She can do whatever she wants to with those funds.
What if the father believes that the child is actually not getting what they need, what from that money, like actually thinks that the child is like, I don't know if I would go so far as to say neglected, but that there's things that they should be using this money for that are clearly not being used for.
Sure. So, in that situation, what the father may want to consider doing is filing for a modification of custody if he already has a custody order, or filing for an actual custody complaint to get a custody order, an initial custody order, if he doesn't already have one. And he would be arguing that it's in the child's best interest for that child to spend more time with him. And if you get to the magic number in North Carolina is 123 overnights or more per year, that moves you from worksheet A, which is going to be the most expensive child support, to worksheet B, which is going to be less expensive child support. And if all things being equal and you're on worksheet B, one of the parties makes more than the other, then the party who makes more money would be the one that ends up paying some type of child support, most likely. So if dad feels like his child is being neglected, not getting taken care of, not being properly groomed or provided for supplies that are needed, then he may want to consider filing for custody rights so that he gets more time with that child. And if it's a situation where he gets primary custody of that child, then maybe he should consider filing for child support himself.
Mm-hmm. What kind of evidence do you need for that? Because I got to believe that's a lot of he said, she said in those situations. So what kind of evidence do you find supports those claims best?
Sure. So the polar star for the court when they're considering custody is the best interest of the child.
Sure.
It's not what's fair to mom or what's fair to dad, or mom or dad and dad, but what is in the child's or children's best interest as it relates to a schedule. So if dad is able to demonstrate that he has more stability in his home, that he is able to provide for the child or children, that he is more involved in maybe extracurriculars or education or healthcare decisions related to the child, and that mom is kind of not doing her part. She is not taking care of the child properly, getting the child to school on time, getting the child to wellness visits, not getting the child to extracurriculars, neglecting the child in some type of way, abusing the child in some type of way. If he's able to demonstrate and show that, then the court would definitely consider dad being the person who should have primary custody. And then, of course, that would definitely change how child support gets calculated, because the person who has primary physical custody of a child is the one who's entitled to child support via worksheet A in the state of North Carolina.
So there's no process for accusing of misuse of child support. It's only about you can bring that up as a reason that you think that you should maybe get more or primary custody of the child.
Exactly. And it will not be a good enough reason on its own.
Okay.
That needs to go with more information as to why it's in the child or children's best interest that custody change from mom to dad.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense, because if presumably if the money is not being used to take care of the kid, then that would be they're not taking, then you separate the money and you're just saying, well, they're not taking care of the kid. You don't really need to use the money as the reason at that point, because the lack of handling the basic needs of the child aren't being met.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Did dads oftentimes reach out to the moms? Did this cause problems? Do you have to kind of talk people down a little bit and say, hey, don't be attacking mom about what she's using the money for? Does this happen a lot?
I think it happens a fair number. I don't know if I would use the word attacking, but maybe challenging or giving their frustrations to mom
Airing
about
grievances.
how the money is being utilized. Maybe a softer term for it, but yeah, and understandably so. Again, I tell people all the time, unfortunately, the law is the law, and sometimes that's going to feel fair, and sometimes it's not. But that is the law that we have. And we're all bound to it as attorneys, as judges. This is what the North Carolina legislature has decided is how child support gets calculated and what child support can be used for. And so we are all arguing and interpreting the law of the land, but we can't change it in and of ourselves.
I know we've talked about this before, but child support is more of a mathematical equation, right? more than just an arbitrary decision.
Exactly. So the way that child support is calculated in North Carolina is based on the gross incomes of the parties. So not what you see netting in your bank account, but what the government says you make, that gross amount per month. And then you get credit for work-related childcare expenses. So say daycare, after school care, summer camp. And you get credit for health insurance premiums for the children only. So thinking, healthcare as it relates to health insurance, dental, vision. If there are any extraordinary expenses, those may come into play, like maybe a really expensive prescription that one of the parents pays out of pocket each month for the child. And you also do get credit for any child support that you pay for other children or any children outside of this particular order who live in the home with you full time. And once all of that information is put into the worksheet calculation, the proper one, then that tells us, at least as of this filming in 2025, if the party's gross income combined is not more than $40,000 per month, then the guidelines are going to dictate what that child support obligation is going to be. Now, parties can also, always agree to more or less than the guideline amount if they want to, but assuming that there's no agreement otherwise, then the guidelines are going to dictate the child support obligation.
If the payer disagrees, do they have an appeal, or is it just that's the calculation comes in and that's what it is?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Where you might see an appeal or a reason for appeal would be a basis related to what gross incomes are, right? So if you have a business owner, they may feel like their gross income is X and the court may find that it's Y. And it may be based on reasonable business expenses or deductions that were not taken into consideration, things of that nature, where there's a discrepancy between what you believe the court should have found to be your gross income and what they chose to find to be your gross income. And that, of course, plays a large role in what the bottom line child support obligation is going to be. So that might be a reason. But if it's just the numbers are what they are, you're talking about 2 W-2 employees and somebody just doesn't like the amount, unfortunately, that is the law of the land.
That's the law of the land. Yeah. So you said that this comes up a lot. What do you usually have to do? What do you have to say to your clients, or how do you reason with them? How do you talk them down? Like what does that look like from your standpoint? Because it doesn't sound like there's a whole heck of a lot anyone can do about it.
No, there's not. I think the most important thing as an attorney you can do is to just be candid and honest, and straightforward. And so even from a consultation on, I try to set realistic expectations about what to expect. If I have the gross incomes of the parties, I'll pull out the worksheet on my computer while we're doing the consult and see if I can run the numbers myself to give you an idea of what you're probably going to be looking at as a child support obligation. But I think that knowledge is power. I think when people don't have any idea what the child support obligation might be, that's when it's a little bit more jarring when you see what that number is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's almost always a number that people feel like they cannot afford. And frankly, on the other side, it's almost always a number that the custodial parent feels like isn't enough to take care of these kids, because children are expensive, right?
They are.
Yes,
they definitely are. So yeah, that's an interesting point too. Like no one's ever really feels like it's fair a lot of times in these situations. Yeah. So even though in this case, in our example, the dad is unhappy with the amount, there's a very good chance the mom doesn't think that it's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting stuff. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Advocating for Dads. If you have questions about child support, custody, any other family law matter in North Carolina, visit lawofficeofjkj.com to connect with Jana and her team. And be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review so other fathers can find the information and protect their rights as well. Jana, always great chatting with you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos like this one.